Hey everybody, it's Colton Stombo with the Inspire podcast. We're providing fearless B2B sales, marketing, and management insights. Today's episode is a really exciting one. Talking to two gentlemen who are helping lead the way in a very innovative product category and how to keep a company's greatest resources safe, with that being their people. So with that said, Matt Marino and Karl Zelick, how you two gentlemen doing today? And maybe, I don't know, Matt, you want to lead off and let us know a little bit about who you are and what your background is?
Sure, happy to. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Matt Marino. I'm the Director of Ergonomics and Human Factors with HeroWear. My background goes way back in human performance optimization and physical therapy before getting into ergonomics and being a consultant in the ergonomics space for about 12 years, consulting across a variety of industries. And this is where I sort of came to discover occupational exoskeletons. And I started to do a number of projects with large, typically Fortune 500 companies that were interested in testing these types of products with their workers. And the volume of that work steadily increased over a period of about 5-6 years until the end of last year when I joined the HeroWear team, and I'm really proud of the work that we're doing there.
Okay. No, that's incredible. So it sounds like helping companies take care of their people is something that you've been passionate about for a long time, and kind of seeing a pattern led you to where you are today. So
that's right.
Okay. All right, Karl. Well, how about you, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. My name is Karl Zelick. I'm an engineering professor at Vanderbilt University, where I co-direct a center focused on restoring health, mobility, and independence to individuals with disabilities, or trying to prevent those injuries or disabilities from happening in the first place. So we do a lot of research and development related to exoskeletons, exosuits, prosthetics, smart clothing, and wearables. I'm also the co-founder and chief scientific officer of HeroWear, which is a spin-off company that develops industrial exosuits to help support workers in physically demanding jobs. So thanks for having us. I'm always excited to talk about exoskeletons and exosuits.
Well, thanks. I think this might be the first time that we've got two doctors on this podcast. So I'm going to try my best to keep up with the two of you. No promises. So it sounds like really you've got the engineering and ergonomics, kind of dynamic duo thing happening here with HeroWear. Kind of being the scientific and health side of what's going on. Tell us a little bit about HeroWear. I know you both had mentioned exosuits, and I'm going to be honest. When I think about exosuits, I think about aliens and Iron Man. I don't think that's the truth. So could you give us a quick rundown about the category and all the advances that have happened to kind of bring you to the point where you're leading a product-based company in this space? So, Matt, how about you lead us off there?
Yeah, sure thing. I'm happy to take that. So exoskeletons are wearable devices that augment, enable, assist, or enhance some type of physical function that a human being has to do by interacting with the human being's body. So in our case, it's an exosuit. So that's a soft version of an exoskeleton, almost like a soft shell version where all of the components are soft, and when the worker bends or lifts, the device supports their back and helps them perform the lift. So it's reducing the strain and the fatigue on their back. And there have been a lot of advancements in this whole field of exoskeletons has really increased momentum and come a long way since I started looking at these types of products back about 8.5 years ago. At that point in time, a lot of the development was around medical and military devices. So medical devices really for people who have spinal cord injuries, strokes, or some other type of neurological issue where they're trying to walk or perform activities of daily living with the help of an exoskeleton device. The military has been doing a lot of research and work in this area for really decades now, trying to create super soldiers and that sort of thing. But the industrial exoskeletons, the types of devices that HeroWear designs and produces really came on the scene around 2014, 2015. And it's a relatively new, I would say all exoskeletons are a relatively new area and type of technology, but there's a lot of potential for these types of devices to help people with disabilities, to help soldiers, and to help workers go home at the end of the day with more energy, less fatigue, less pain, and help to extend careers and, let people retire able rather than disabled, as I like to say.
Okay. So, Karl, maybe I'll turn this one on you because, it sounds like at least this lightweight, unobtrusive type of exosuit that can really help, I think, Matt, like you said, a worker, right? The historical context maybe has been more medical device or military application. I know it seems like what you guys are doing is really trying to create a solution that's going to help, the average worker in their day-to-day feel better, perform better. What has it been that kind of brought it that shift from that hard medical or military application to maybe more of a approachable thing for a company to start thinking about?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll also piggyback on your question about, TV and film. So in my experience, most people have honestly not even heard of exoskeletons or exosuits at this point. And if they have, usually they experience them or have seen them in film, TV, or science fiction. So they're thinking of the Iron Man or Sigourney Weaver in Aliens or Tom Cruise in Edge of Tomorrow. And on one hand, these TV and film portrayals are really inspirational for the exoskeleton industry. It's cool entertainment. They're aesthetically pleasing. And then on the other hand, these are depictions that have also led to a lot of misunderstandings about what these devices are, about what they can do. And for that reason, I love to be on podcasts like this. Education and awareness are really an important part of what we do, so that we can overcome some of these preconceptions about what an exoskeleton is, what it can be used for, and even when people can benefit from them. That this isn't something that we're dreaming about in the future, but this is something people can actually have access to now.
Yeah. No,
the way I
Sorry.
the way I often describe it to people is, currently and also for the foreseeable future, exoskeletons are going to be more like tools than they are like supersuits. For instance, if you have calf muscle weakness after a stroke, you might benefit from an ankle exoskeleton to support you during walking. If you work in manufacturing and you're doing a lot of overhead work and it's a lot of strain on your upper body and your shoulders, you might benefit from a shoulder exoskeleton. If you work in a logistics distribution center and you're doing lifting and carrying all day and it's putting a lot of strain on your back, you may benefit from a back exosuit. And so there's been this shift, and really in the research and development world, it's been going on for a long time as people try to figure out how do we take technologies, futuristic looking technologies, but bring them back into the present and use them to support people, to keep them healthy, happy, and energized, both at work and at home.
It's an admirable cause, probably a great application of the area of both of your studies. So you mentioned a couple really discrete, examples there, like if you're overhead a lot, right, a shoulder exosuit. And so I have a little bit of my pre-research. I know there's a company, a few people have heard of, Toyota, that maybe has used those to some success, things like that. So they're out there and they're working. But, what are really the benefits that a proper exo implementation for a workforce? Obviously the incredible, ergonomic benefits to workers and that paramount. You've done a great job describing that already. But if I'm looking at this from a business lens, how is that going to help my company? I mean, some of them are very obvious. You guys have already done a great job painting that. But what are some of the effects you've seen on these companies that have adopted exosuits?
Well, the hope is that these devices help prevent injuries. And we've seen Toyota talk a little bit about this, although it's still relatively early in the grand scheme of things for exoskeletons. So what they've said is, since they've implemented them for specific processes at their plants that require workers to work overhead underneath the body of the vehicle, they went from having injuries to not having injuries, which is great. but it's really just one example. And we need to see if that holds true across the board for other automotive companies, aerospace companies, and then in logistics environments or manufacturing, construction, agriculture, even healthcare, there's a tremendous amount of back injuries. And there's a huge opportunity there, but these devices just haven't been out there long enough to really know if they can prevent injuries in all of these environments or not. But injury prevention is just one of the things that we hope to see and that might help drive that business case. Other things like reducing turnover. In a lot of these really physically demanding jobs, workers can't even tolerate the work because they're too tired and they can't really sustain that level of intensity throughout the week, or their bodies hurt. So they're forced to quit to find something else. And that's really expensive to have to lose people, lose good people, and have to hire and retrain new ones. So reduction in turnover is another potential benefit, along with cost avoidance from injury reduction. And then time will tell if these devices also help people improve performance. While we say not to necessarily increase the productivity demands on workers just because you're giving them some of these types of exoskeletons or exosuits, that may be a secondary benefit that we'll have to see over time if that nets out. There's some evidence of that, but again, it's still a little bit early to tell.
Yeah.
I'll just reiterate what Matt said there. You know, if your workforce is overburdened and fatigued, then no one wins. They're more likely to make mistakes or miss work because of back pain, or just quit and find another job. As Matt said, it's really physically intensive work. And so I believe that companies are incentivized to try to keep their workforce healthy and energized. And I think exosuits can be a part of a comprehensive strategy around health and safety. When I look at exosuits, I think the best use case are situations where workers are under these high physical demands. They're lifting a lot, they're bending a lot, they're undergoing a lot of back strain. And the company has already tried traditional ergonomic controls. In other words, they're already trying to implement ways to improve safety, but they just don't have the right tools. They don't have the ability to completely redesign the plant. It's too expensive, or it's just impractical because the job is so versatile. And so I see exosuits as this additional tool that could be deployed to help these workers that are under high strain and just help relieve some of that physical burden and some of that fatigue for these at-risk workers.
Well, I think when you think about all those things and then layer in, you know, some of the greater business philosophies, especially in manufacturing and logistics and trends that are prevailing, the world is moving a lot faster, right? You know, I can order a 50-pound bag of dog food from Amazon and they'll have it at my door in an hour, right? You know, and I can only imagine the human labor that goes into that to make that happen. Just-in-time manufacturing, we want to get that order and get it delivered as fast as possible. Well, humans are a big part of that equation, you know, and with everything speeding up, we need more tools as a society to help cater to that. So in a lot of ways, you think about everything that's happening, maybe the time is right for the greater business world to really start thinking about these things. You know, I think that's fascinating. You know, to put the spotlight maybe on you two a little bit, though we're not trying to pry too much. You know, obviously you've talked a lot about HeroWear's mission and where your two particular areas of study and expertise have kind of, you know, helped drive the company. But what really motivated the two of you to get into this position to work, you know, for and with and building this HeroWear brand, where, as y'all put it, you know, the idea of sustaining strength for work and life, I mean, that's incredibly admirable. Where does that motivation come from? What inspired you two to enter this field?
I guess
okay, Matt, I'll pick on you first. That'll work.
Okay, I'll take this one first. So I guess my inspiration to work on exoskeletons came from a personal need for the technology to accelerate and get better. I have an 8-year-old son with cerebral palsy. So that's why I started looking at exoskeletons that might be able to help him in his lifetime. And I started to really investigate whether this technology could achieve that type of a goal for him and for my family, really, because we're all in it together. Then I started to see the potential that this technology had to help workers like Karl was just talking about, where there's no feasible way to make their job any safer or any less strenuous on their bodies. I'm a clinician. My background is as a practitioner. So I get hands-on with people and I help them fix their bodies. It's a lot better if I don't have to do that in the first place, in my opinion. I saw way too many people in the clinic as a therapist that had 25 plus year back injuries that originally happened at work. And all they wanted to do at that point was be able to lift up their grandkids or go play a round of golf. And I would like to help the future of retired people be able to do that with the support of an exoskeleton or an exosuit today, so that they don't have that disability later on.
Absolutely. Well, it's obvious that you have to be an incredibly motivated gentleman, so that helps understand like the gravity on like what the company's trying to accomplish. Karl, how about you? What motivated you to enter this field?
Yeah, I'll just say, first of all, that's one of the reasons I'm so thrilled to work with Matt. I mean, he's really amazing at what he does, but he's also super passionate and driven. And it comes from that personal motivation. For me, I've been involved in doing research on biomechanics and assistive technologies for individuals with disabilities for the last 12 years. So this has been a big part of what I do, what I'm passionate about, what gets me excited. Now, I have primarily in the past done research on prosthetics and trying to help individuals that currently have a physical disability and trying to understand how we can create technologies or create science that enables them. About 5 years ago, I started getting interested in back assist devices and more applications for industry and occupational environments, largely because of my own kids. To be honest, they were destroying my back. As any parent knows, all the lifting and bending that goes into parenting. And at the time, again, being somebody that works on assistive devices, I went out and started looking around at commercial products to see if there was something that I could wear in my daily life that would help reduce some of the strain on my own back. And what I found at the time were devices that could offload the back, but they were rigid or bulky or just too impractical for my daily life. And so they could help me lift, but I couldn't sit down with them. So I ended up doing what a researcher does, which is we started doing some work in our own lab at Vanderbilt University. And we spent about 2 or 3 years just exploring the science of back assist exoskeletons and exosuits, developing early prototypes. And over a couple of years, we started finding some really promising results. So we have a laboratory where we found using these back assist exosuits, we were reducing strain on the back and muscle fatigue of the back by about 20 to 40%. And as we started talking to people in other industries, we started getting a lot of inbound interest and really started to understand, one, how big of a problem back pain is, and two, that folks in industry were hungry for a practical solution. So it became pretty clear to us that there was a large unmet need. And as we started showing some of our science and early prototypes around, we were getting really good feedback that this seemed like a solution that could be deployed at scale and could actually help people, again, stay happy, healthy, and energized. So that's how I got involved in this. And we've been building a team and building a company since then. And it's been a lot of fun and rewarding in the process.
Okay. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I am not a scientist, but I do know never bet against a highly motivated parent. You got 2 of them in this company. So the world of EH&S needs to watch out. But the vivid picture of kind of why and how this company started. I mean, the world loves startup stories, and I think that's an incredible one. If this was Shark Tank, I think somebody on the panel would be crying, but it's not. So
I should just also add in, we've been very fortunate. We benefited from some federal small business funding and really a terrific interdisciplinary team. So obviously you're talking to myself as the scientist and Matt as the ergonomist. We also linked up early on with one of my former students, Matt Yandel, who's a terrific exosuit engineer and a serial entrepreneur in Mark Harris. And so really the well-rounded team being able to look at this problem from multiple dimensions, the design, the ergonomics, the science, and the business side, I think has helped us position ourselves to really deliver solutions that meet client needs.
Yeah, no, it's incredible when you see like a group of people motivated by a lot of the same things, but then also well equipped to help engineer a real solution that can be, brought to the world. I mean, that's how a lot of incredible things have started. So let's dive into the specifics of the product a little bit here. What makes HeroWear suits different? Like, what are, I guess, some of the, in marketing speak, we say unique differentiators. What are some of the ideas and I guess findings that you guys have applied that position you a little bit different from maybe some of the other things that are out there in the marketplace?
So the Apex Exo Suit, it really embodies a unique combination of features. I think that's what's special about it. It's something that hasn't been fused together in the exoskeleton industry to date. And so to me, the keys are the exosuit is soft. So it's made mostly from textiles and elastomers, and that makes it comfortable, makes it feel more like clothing. It's unobtrusive, so you can turn the assistance on or off as you need it. That way, when you don't need assistance, the device stays out of your way and you can do other tasks. This has been a really big obstacle. The whole interference problem has been a big obstacle for the exoskeleton industry to date. And so one of our proprietary patent pending aspects is really this dual mode on-off switch that allows the device to be unobtrusive. Another key is that it's passive. So there's no batteries, there's no motors, nothing that you need to charge at the end of the day, and nothing heavy to carry around. It's effective. So we've got multiple peer-reviewed scientific publications which prove how the exosuit works and how it relieves strain and fatigue off the back muscles. And then the last key I'll highlight is just that it's modular. So it's designed to fit different body types and different body shapes. And it's the first commercial exoskeleton or exosuit that is designed with both a female specific and a male specific fit. And so we really were passionate about trying to make sure we had a solution that could meet the needs of all clients, both men and women.
Got a lot of firsts, and I heard the word proprietary a couple times. So that's when you're talking about a technical product that it's usually a good thing. And I think it's something that not a new category, but one that maybe is now new to the idea of mass adoption. I always think about, hey, it needs to be easy and practical. And you talked about the soft fit, the on-off. Matt, maybe I'll pick on you as kind of the EH&S and ergo guy. Like, what does that look like? I'm thinking in my head, if I'm a last mile delivery driver who's moving 50 pounds of dog food, I want to be able to hit that button and get that assistance on and off and not be encumbered when I'm not using it. I mean, is that one of the big, like, just trying to paint a picture for our audience here so it's real vivid. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is hitting the nail on the head from a human factors and ergonomics standpoint. Being able to get the assistance that you need and have a suit that is really catered towards the demands of your job. I mean, it's the closest that we've seen any exoskeleton or exosuit come to truly being a super suit for all people, an exo for all, as we would say. So yeah, absolutely not having to think much to use this suit, not having to practice within it to learn how to use it. It fits people really well right out of the box. It's super comfortable and it gets out of their way when they don't need it, but it's there to help them when they do. I mean, these are key features and key differentiators of this exosuit that I have not been able to find in any of the other devices that I've tested or used over the 5 or 6 years that I was helping companies test and use other products that are on the market.
Okay, well, it sounds like, y'all really thought about this. Obviously, have the science and practical in-field expertise to make this happen. But one of the questions I wanted to get into is, like, with this being a new category, it has to be a challenge. And it sounds like through R&D and listening to the market and looking, you've solved a lot of the maybe potential hangups, but what are some of the challenges you see when you're introducing this to new companies, new people, and I guess new parts of the market? Or maybe it isn't a challenge. I don't know. You guys let me know.
Yeah, I think we hinted at this a little bit earlier. Certainly education and awareness is important, particularly if people have preconceived notions when they hear the word exoskeleton or exosuit. So you say the word and they're thinking, weaponized, rigid metal, flying powered armor suit, and you have to talk them back down to soft, passive, mode switching, clothing like, 3-pound suit that takes 50 pounds of strain off your back each time you lift. It's a different beast. It's a different conceptualization. And so there is a really important element to education. Once people have learned what the suit is, once people have started to see videos, and better yet, once people have tried it on and feel the assistance they're getting, feel that there's less strain on their back whenever they're bending forward, or less strain when they're lifting something from the ground or from the pallet, that's where you really see the light bulb come on and the smile come across their face. Or, one of the things we like the best is after they felt the assistance for a while, then you switch it off and have them perform the same lifting or bending task. And there's a very visceral sound that is emitted as they realize just how much assistance they were getting. And that's always kind of a fun moment to see that. And it's very consistent that we see that across individuals that try these suits.
Hey, smiles are usually very telling. I believe that. There's an interesting thought there. And Matt, I'm guessing this is a good question directed toward you. Is, I think about like adoption of new technology, and I think about exosuits. Fitment and getting people fitted and getting these deployed in the field is probably a big potential hurdle. How does HeroWear kind of approach that side of it?
That's a great question. Fit and especially initial fit is really critical, because first impressions are lasting, right? So when we put suits on people, or when we support our customers putting suits on their people, we really want to make sure that they're doing it and getting a good fit right out of the gate, so that the user has a good experience right from the start. We do that through a program that we call Hero Care 360. So it's a full-on customer support program, beginning with training for the users, training for the folks that we would call Apex Exo Suit specialists, who are going to be supporting other users in their workplace, since we're not boots on the ground necessarily at a manufacturing plant or in a warehouse. We really lean on our customers and the professionals that they have who can help us help their people use the suits. We have resources to help them with every aspect of the implementation process, from before they even get the exosuits, making sure that they're ordering the right sizes and receiving the right sizes, to when they get the suits, helping them get trained, helping them fit and adjust the devices on their people, confirming that everything is looking and feeling really good. And then once they have the suits on people and they've really kicked off use, making sure that they're doing certain things to sustain the use of the devices long term in a way that's going to be successful and that everybody's really happy with. So things like making sure that people get started using some kind of a wear schedule so that they get used to using the device, but also so that they can feel, like Karl was saying before, what the device is doing for them, the benefits that it is delivering to them. It's amazing when people have things taken away from them sometimes. That's when they realize how good they really are, right? So things like wear schedules, things like fit checks, making sure that people are checking in with users, that there's no issues, and that anything that needs to be troubleshot is done so before it becomes some type of a problem. So we're really there to hold our customers' hand if we have to, but just support them every step of the way to make sure that they're successful, because ultimately their win using our device is our win too. So we want to see everybody succeed.
Yeah, no, and that like full life cycle care and support, I think about that, and we'll dive into this in just a second. But like, if I'm a business decision maker and I'm jumping into a new category, it almost feels like an insurance policy, in many ways, in jumping in and embracing new technology. I'm probably projecting here a little bit, but I work at a creative and marketing agency, and we use Mac computers exclusively because, we're creatives. We have to. I mean, they've got this great program. Computer's not working. Go down the street, drop it off, pick it up in 2 hours. It kind of seems like the strategy is very similar, and I'm just trying to find an analogy that the audience might be familiar with, but that full life cycle support seems so critical. So the fact that you've actually branded that and built a piece around that, it kind of ingenious. So that, yeah, okay. So with that and kind of a continuation, so say maybe I'm not in the EH&S department at a company, right? And I'm interested in starting to learn more about where exosuits are at today and how they could maybe help my organization. What are some of the recommendations you would make to people in that spot? Are there any types of materials, learning tracks, or anything that you've seen out there that could be helpful?
That's a really good question, because when people start to do Google searches on exoskeletons, they're gonna run into some of the things that we've talked about already here, like pictures of Tony Stark or Sigourney Weaver. So I think the way that I would answer this question at this point, and I'd be curious what Karl thinks too once I'm finished, but there is an Exo Technology Center of Excellence that was just formed through ASTM International. And ASTM is a standards organization, one of the standards organizations that is working on standards for exoskeletons. One of the goals and the missions of the ASTM Exo Technology Center of Excellence is to help provide education and outreach and support the community that's out there. So I would encourage people to reach out to the center. There is a website, I believe it's astmetcoe.org or .com. Don't quote me on that one, but maybe we can get it into the show notes so that people can find it. But that's something that the center is prepared to offer, is to help support companies and users, people, individuals that are interested in learning more about exoskeletons. That way people get point to good, truthful, factual materials, and they don't run into some of the misinformation that people like Karl and I are constantly having to correct or re-educate people on.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine, because science fiction and video games index very well on the internet. That's probably a challenge.
It is. It's still such a new industry, and so the information is still quite distributed. And Matt's right, there's still a lot of misinformation that is out there. One other place to check out, there's a website called exoskeletonreport.com that has compiled a good amount of information about exoskeletons and exosuits. Bobby Marinov runs the site. He's also a contributing writer to Forbes, and so he has a number of articles that are out in the public domain. I'll also say for both Matt and myself, we have given a number of educational webinars on exoskeletons. Many of them are freely available on YouTube. And we also have something called the Exosphere, which is a blog on HeroWear's website. And Matt and I contribute to articles there and really do our best to just give plain language, understandable descriptions of what exoskeletons and exosuits are. We talk about our exosuit, but also different trends in the industry, different implementation cases. And we really try to make it accessible. And given that both of us have been in this field for a number of years and are both really passionate about properly educating and sharing accurate information about exoskeletons and exosuits, we hope that becomes a really good resource for people. And we link out to a number of different articles, whether it's science or ergonomics articles. So we try to make it comprehensive and inclusive and as accurate as possible to deliver to end users and potential clients what they need to know about this emerging industry.
Yeah, well, that's great. And I love that you guys went through all that, because Matt, you had mentioned getting that in the show notes. Well, there's going to be a research dossier for people to start going through. so they can educate themselves a little bit. So say I'm one of those maybe non-EH&S decision makers, and I think I already gave away some of the answer here, I think. And I've gone through that list in the show notes, and I want to start the conversation with implementation. What does the team look like, and who would I talk to at my company? So I imagine EH&S is important, maybe operations, I don't know. What does a good implementation team look like in a manufacturing or logistics organization for a technology like exosuits?
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit different depending on the company and how they're organized. But typically, what we're gonna see is some type of an executive or an executive steering committee of sorts that really oversees the implementation and helps identify who those team members are going to be. And there should be people from EH&S, safety, ergonomics. There should be folks from operations as well, and there should also be representatives from the the employees, the staff that are going to be using the devices. And in ergonomics, we would refer to that as participatory ergonomics, where you involve the people who are going to use the solution on the team that is preparing for and ultimately rolling out the technology in the workplace. So with all of those individuals involved, it can be a bit of a project to get rolling, but it really becomes part of what I would call a comprehensive ergonomics program, because a company like a manufacturer should already have an ergonomics program where they're doing things like identifying issues, engineering out problems, controlling things through administration and training and things like that. Personal protective equipment is another area that is going to be overseen by these, and it's all part of that program. And really, exoskeletons fit well into those already established ergonomics programs. So we're not really thinking that people need to change what they're doing when it comes to implementing a new technology all that much. It's just a little bit different when you're asking people to wear something. It's probably more akin to that personal protective equipment, or PPE as it's known in the industry. So that's what I would say as far as the team is concerned. Everybody from an executive down through middle management all the way down to the employee, there should be representatives involved to help figure out what needs to be done and how we're going to do it.
Absolutely. No, and I think that's extremely helpful because, like you said, it looks a little different for every company. But, we have the privilege on this podcast to talk from everybody from, mid-sized distributors of big products to major Fortune 5, manufacturers. And I think that, hearing a little bit about that mix can help no matter where you're at in the marketplace start to approach this. Because I can only imagine, I'm not asking you to tip your hand on anything like pricing or anything like that, but I'll guess, and maybe you could just say yes or no, but with all the adoption and, all the advancements here, it's probably becoming more realistic for companies of all sizes and configurations to start approaching this. So maybe, does that seem reasonable, or this isn't just for the big boys anymore?
Absolutely. No, it's not just for the big boys. The Apex, the pricing is public on our product. It's $11.99 for an individual Apex. So it is very approachable for even small to medium sized enterprises to put back assist exosuits on their people who are running around doing great work, bending and lifting all day long. It is not something that is just for the big boys anymore, as you said.
Well, and I think when you talk about some of the pain points that we're solving, no pun intended, but things like turnover and keeping employees engaged. I mean, sometimes in that small to medium space, turnover can be even more catastrophic, so it just seems like everything is lining up to really, kind of get this technology out there to truly help companies and their people, which, it seems like that's the HeroWear story from the jump. So, before I give you both the opportunity to give the shameless plug, throw the HeroWear URL out there, which we're going to have everywhere. What's the big vision? And Karl, I'll pick on you first here. where are you all hoping to be in 3-5 years?
So if I go down the street now and go by a construction site, I'll see workers wearing safety harnesses, wearing hard hats, and I'll think nothing of it. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I hope in 5 years that the same thing can be said for exosuits, that they just become a normal and beneficial part of certain physically demanding industries. Personally, I wear glasses to work every day, and if I didn't, I'd have to strain my eyes, and I'd almost certainly go home at the end of every day with a headache. If you tried to take my glasses away from me, I'd fight you. So this is because I know it doesn't just affect my job, but it affects my life after I get off work. And I know this firsthand because I didn't have glasses my first year and a half in grad school, and that was how I felt. And so I think, and I hope, and I believe that exosuits can play a similar role in people's lives that have these physically demanding jobs, that it becomes something that actually benefits them, that helps them on and off the job, to the point where they wouldn't want to give it up because it does make their quality of life better. And it helps keep them engaged, again, both at work and outside of work.
Absolutely. Matt, I don't know if you just want to give that shameless plug now, because I think what Karl the vision he just painted, that'd be tough to top. But if you think you could do it, by all means.
No, I think Karl and I share the same vision, that this technology is really going to improve quality of life. And that's where I would leave that one. And if anybody wants to find out more about HeroWear, our website is HeroWearExo.com. You can hit us up there. There's a contact form. You could also hit us up on LinkedIn. Karl and I are both pretty active on there, and HeroWear also has an account, and other forms of social media as well, HeroWear Exo.
All right, so I'll sum that up for the audience. If you really want to learn more about this quickly and not have to do the level of academic research that we're going to have in the show notes, find these two guys, start talking to them, they'll fast track you. No, well, Matt and Karl, thanks so much. I mean, I think this one was equal parts inspirational, educational, and insightful. And I'm pretty sure that our manufacturing and logistics audience is going to be thinking about things they weren't thinking about yesterday, which I think was the goal here. So, thanks to both of you. Truly appreciate the time. This was an incredible conversation. And to the audience, we'll see you soon. But you know where to find these guys, so go do it.
Thanks so much for hosting.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, have a great one.